In this video, we will talk, more so review about area and perimeter, and I'm also going to go through the vocabulary for Unit 7. So the first word we're going to look at is three-dimensional figure. That is a shape that has a length, a width, and a height or a depth. A length, a width, and a height. A two-dimensional figure only has those first two things, a length and a width. And a one-dimensional figure only has that first thing, a length. Looking at a net is a two-dimensional figure. So it's something with a length and a width that represents a three-dimensional figure. It's something with a length and a width that represents something with a length, a width, and a height. Surface area is the area of the faces in a three-dimensional figure. There are two types. We can have a total surface area or a lateral surface area. The total surface area is the area of all of the faces. That is including the bases. A lateral surface area, lateral means side. Lateral surface area then is just the faces on the side, which means it does not include those bases. Volume is the amount of space inside of a three-dimensional figure. So volume goes with 3D. And you'll notice the units in volume are units to the third power. 3 dimensions, and our units will be to the third power. Area is the amount of space inside of a two-dimensional figure. So area belongs with 2D shapes. Area is measured in units to the second power. 2D units have a power of 2. Perimeter is the length around a shape. The length around a shape. I'm going to define it in a really weird way to kind of mimic this three-dimensional figure, two-dimensional figure, what goes with which. So perimeter is just the length of a one-dimensional figure. That's really just a line. This just means that we are adding all of the sides together. With perimeter, we'll have units to the first power because perimeter goes with a one-dimensional object. 1D, units to the first power. So we've got perimeter is 1D, area is 2D, and volume is 3D. So typically with three-dimensional figures, we are finding a volume. We might also find a surface area. Two-dimensional figures, we're only finding the area. And in a one-dimensional figure, we can only find perimeter or a length. Surface area and nets look like two-dimensional things. Areas, units will be in units squared, so that reminds us of two-dimensional things. However, they belong with three-dimensional objects. Today we're just going to kind of remember, hopefully, how to find area and perimeter of squares, rectangles, triangles. We're also going to find the area and circumference on a circle. So first we'll look at a square, and I'll draw this square, and we'll label it 7 centimeters by 7 centimeters. First we'll find its perimeter. To find the perimeter of a square, you just add all of the sides. Well, all of the sides would be 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7. 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 is 28. So the perimeter is 28 centimeters. Now we'll look at the area. To find the area of a square, in class, I will have given you guys another star chart. You guys also have one at the front of your binders. If you don't know the formulas off the top of your head, that is okay. You can find them on your star chart. If you're unsure if you're correct, you wouldn't bet your life on it. Check the star chart to see if you have the formula correct. Area of a square is S squared. S is just the side length of a square, so that would be this 7 is S. So A is 7 squared, which is 49, so that's 49 centimeters squared. Next, we will look at a rectangle. I'll draw a rectangle here. I'll say this is 13 inches by 9 inches. Let's first find the perimeter of this rectangle. To find the perimeter of a rectangle, we just add all of the sides together. So that is 13 plus 9 plus 13 plus 9. 13 plus 9 plus 13 plus 9 would be 26, 35, 44. 44 inches. Now let's find the area of the rectangle. The formula for the area of a rectangle you can check is base times height. You can check on your star chart. If you're an online learner, I have uploaded a star chart on Schoology. It is the resource right above what says class app. It says 8th grade math formula chart. Okay, base and height are just any two of the sides that form a 90-degree angle. So I could use 13 and 9 as base and height. I'll say that 9 is the base. If 9 is the base, that means 13 is the height. 9 times 13 is 90 plus 27, or 117 inches squared, because this is an area. Next, we will look at a triangle. And I'll draw this triangle here. I'll call this side 9, 6, and 7. And this is not the exact height, but I will guesstimate it at 5. And that means this makes a 90-degree angle. And we'll guesstimate that height to be 5. Okay, so to find the perimeter, we simply add all of the sides. All of the outside sides. We're going around our triangle. So we're adding 6 7, and 9. But we're not adding 5 because that's a length from the base of the triangle to the top. I believe that's called the apex. Okay, anyways, 6 plus 7 plus 9 would be 15, 22. So that is 22. And I didn't write a unit. Let's call this meters. That's 6 meters, 7 meters, 9 meters, and 5 meters. Okay. So that would be 22 meters then. To find the area of a triangle, look at your formula charts. You see that the area of a triangle is half times the base times the height. Remember, base and height are any two numbers that make a 90-degree angle. Here's the 90-degree angle, so if I pick 9 as the base, then the side that makes a 90-degree angle with 9 is the height, which is 5. So 5 is the height, and I cannot forget we have to multiply this by half. So area is half times 9 times 5. Half times 9 times 5 would be half of 45, and half of 45 is 22.5. And this is meters to the second power because it's an area. Now we'll look at a circle. I'm going to draw my circle right here. And I'm going to call this length going through the center of my circle 16. And we'll call that 16 yards. Before we get out our star charts to find the circumference, instead of perimeter, we use a circumference, an area of a circle. Let's talk about this 16. 16 goes all the way across from end to end through the middle of the circle. So that is called the diameter. The diameter would be 16 then. Now the diameter is just 2 times whatever the radius is. So what times 2? Something times 2 gets us 16, that's 8. So the radius is 8. The radius is just half whatever the diameter is. So 16 divided by 2 gets us 8. Or half of 16 is 8. So I have the diameter and radius here. Instead of finding perimeter for a circle, we call that circumference. And there are two formulas here. We can use pi times the diameter, or we can use 2 times pi times r. Pi times the diameter would give us pi times 8. In 7th grade, I know you guys used 3.14 times pi, and that is a really great estimation. In 8th grade, we talked about how pi is irrational, and that decimal keeps going forever and ever. And you can see that on your calculator if you hit the pi button. It doesn't stop at the 4, obviously that keeps on going, so this 4 is rounded somehow. So we can still use 3.14 as long as we understand that that is going to give us an approximation or a very rounded guess to our circumference. So I would prefer us to actually use the pi button unless otherwise specified. So since I'm not saying to use pi as 3.14, in my calculator I'll have pi times 8 when I'm finding the circumference here. And that gets us 25.13. I know some of you might not think there's a difference, and that would be yards. Some of you might not think there's a difference between using 3.14 and using the pi button. What I notice here is that there's a lot of other digits behind that 3.14. So when I start multiplying by bigger and bigger numbers, let's pretend I multiplied this by 10, that would be 31.4159. But if I multiplied it by 100, that would be 314.159. So as I increase the value of the numbers we multiply pi by, that's going to increase the number of decimal places that we use, and the rounding is going to be really off. So just to give an example of that, if I only use those first two decimals and I multiply by 8, which is almost 10, we said 10 would get us that one decimal off. So 25.12, you'll notice that last place is off by 1. That's not always going to be the case, but I do need you guys to see that using 3.14 as rounded pi gets you a really rounded answer. Yes, it's close to 25.13 blah 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 blah, but it's not exactly that. For that matter, saying 25.13 is also not exactly what we have here. If you would like an exact answer, you would need to leave it in terms of pi, 8 pi. So you could say the exact answer is 8 pi yards. We usually put a decimal just so we can talk about this easier. I'm not going to go to the store to build a circular fence saying that I need 8 pi yards of fencing. I would say I probably need about 26 feet of fencing. We have another way that we could calculate the circumference. Instead of pi times c, it would be 2 times pi times r. That would be 2 times pi times the radius is 8. That would give us, you can use your calculator. Sorry, the radius is 8, which means this video is wrong, because here I used 16 instead of 8. I should have used 16, I used 8. So I'm going to change my answer here. I have made a mistake. I should have used 16, which means this is wrong, and this is wrong. So I found my mistake, and I've just erased everything below it that uses those numbers, because I have to go back and redo my math. So I've got pi times 16. It's been a day, guys. Okay, and if I'm going to round, I'll use 50.27. So I went from being exactly equal to pi times 16 to being about 50.27 yards. Again, if you wanted that to be exactly equal to your answer, you'd use 16 pi. And again, we can see the rounding difference between using 3.14 and the pi button times 16. We'd get 50.24 instead of our 50.27. So there is a minor difference. I would prefer us to use the pi button to get an answer closer to what is more exact. The other way we could calculate is using the formula 2 times pi times r. That is 2 times pi times 8. If I rearrange my multiplication, we get 2 times 8 times pi. 2 times 8 is 16 times pi. And now we have the exact same formula here. 2 times r gets us the diameter. So these really are the same formula. It just depends on which one you're more comfortable with using. So either way, your perimeter is roughly 50 and 2/10. 50, I'm going to say 50.27 is roughly my perimeter, or circumference, sorry. And now we'll find the area. The lights are off. That's okay. Now we'll find the area of this circle. The area formula you can verify on your star charts is A equals pi r squared. That would be pi times the radius is 8 squared. 8 squared is 64, so this is just 64 times whatever pi is. I prefer to use the pi button to get a more exact answer, so we're in control of the rounding. You could use 3.14, but your rounding may be much different than mine. Again, these are about the same answer, 201 and 200, but we see our number is much bigger now, 64, and we're off by a whole 1 instead of just a tenth or 100. So I'm going to use 201.06. I'm going from exactly 64 pi to roughly about 201/600 yards squared. If you make a mistake, it's okay. Just erase where you're at and everything below that and go back with the new number. Mistakes are proof that we're trying. Squares, rectangles, and triangles you have been finding the area and perimeter of since fourth and fifth grade. So this part of your homework shouldn't be so awful. Circles we introduced to you guys in 7th grade, and you guys got a lot of practice there, so hopefully all of this is coming back in a little bit of an easier, more relaxed way to you. If you do have questions, comments, or concerns about this video, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can send me an email, a Schoology message, or drop a comment on the video.